The rain pounded against the windows of the old Victorian house in suburban Chicago. But inside, 15-year-old Reed Thompson felt a storm far worse than the one outside. His foster parents, Martha and Robert, had just discovered his secret. A hidden journal filled with confessions of his feelings for another boy at school, and their faces twisted in a mix of shock and revulsion that shattered his world in an instant. "We can't have this under our roof," Robert had bellowed, his voice echoing like thunder, as Martha wept silently, packing his things without a word, leaving Reed to wonder if love could ever be as cruel as family. By morning, Reed was dropped off at the doorstep of St. Mary's Orphanage, his duffel bag slung over his shoulder like a badge of rejection. The social worker's sympathetic eyes did little to ease the ache in his chest as she explained the paperwork, but Reed barely heard her. All he could think about was how his foster parents, the only family he'd known since age 5, had abandoned him for being who he was. The orphanage was a cold, echoing place filled with kids who had their own stories of loss, but none stung quite like Reed's. Betrayed not by death or circumstance, but by choice. Days turned into weeks, and Reed learned to navigate the system with a hardened resolve. He kept his head down, excelling in school to prove he was more than the label they'd slapped on him. Whispers followed him in the halls. "That's the gay kid the Thompsons dumped." It fueled a fire in him, a determination to rise above the prejudice that had uprooted his life. At night, in the dim light of his bunk, he dreamed of a future where he could love freely, without fear of losing everything. As years passed, Reed aged out of the system at 18, armed with a scholarship to the University of Illinois. College was a revelation, a place where diversity wasn't just tolerated but celebrated. He joined the LGBTQ+ alliance, finding friends who understood the scars of rejection. It was there he met David Ramirez, a confident art major with a warm smile that thawed the ice around Reed's heart. Their first conversation was over coffee in the student union, debating the merits of abstract versus realistic painting, but it quickly deepened into shared stories of coming out and family strife. David's family had been supportive, a stark contrast that both envious and inspired Reed. "My parents threw a party when I told them," David said one evening as they walked along the quad, leaves crunching underfoot. Reed laughed bitterly, recounting his own tale of abandonment. "They chose their beliefs over me," he admitted, his voice steady but laced with old pain. David squeezed his hand, a simple gesture that sparked something new, a tentative hope for connection. Their relationship blossomed slowly, built on trust and mutual respect. Late-night study sessions turned into dates at local diners, where they'd share fries and dreams. Reed pursued a degree in social work, driven by a desire to help kids like himself, while David chased his passion for graphic design. By graduation, they were inseparable, moving into a small apartment in Chicago's Boys Town neighborhood, a vibrant community that felt like the home Reed had always craved. Life wasn't without challenges. Reed's career took off at a nonprofit aiding foster youth, but societal biases lingered. Colleagues sometimes raised eyebrows at his openness about his sexuality, and funding cuts often targeted programs for LGBTQ+ kids. David faced his own hurdles in the competitive design world, where subtle discrimination masked as creative differences stalled his progress. Together, they navigated these storms, their bond an anchor in turbulent seas. One crisp autumn day, 10 years after his abandonment, Reed received a letter that upended his carefully rebuilt life. It was from Martha Thompson, her handwriting shaky on the envelope. "Dear Reed," it began, "we need to talk. Robert is ill, kidney failure, and we're in dire straits. Please, if there's any forgiveness in your heart." The words blurred as anger surged through him. How dare they reach out now after discarding him like trash? He showed the letter to David that evening, pacing their living room like a caged animal. "They think they can just waltz back in because they need something?" Reed fumed, his voice rising. David listened patiently, then pulled him into a hug. "You don't owe them anything, Reed, but maybe hearing them out could give you closure." The suggestion hung in the air, a seed of doubt in Reed's resolute anger. As the days wore on, Reed wrestled with the decision. Memories flooded back. The good times before the discovery, like family barbecues and holiday traditions. But they paled against the betrayal. He confided in his therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Ellis, who specialized in trauma from family rejection. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about freeing yourself, she advised. Yet, Reed wondered if freedom meant cutting ties forever or facing the past head-on. Finally, he agreed to meet them at a neutral coffee shop downtown. Martha looked older, frail, her eyes rimmed with regret. Robert was absent, too weak to travel. "We're sorry, Reed," she whispered, tears streaming. "We were wrong, blinded by our faith." Reed sat stone-faced, his heart pounding. "Sorry doesn't erase the years I spent feeling worthless," he replied, his voice steady. The conversation unearthed layers of pain. Martha explained their conservative upbringing, the church's influence that painted homosexuality as sin. "We thought we were saving you," she admitted, her voice breaking. Reed challenged her. "Saving me from what?" "Myself." The exchange was raw, exposing the societal divides that tore families apart. Religion versus acceptance, tradition versus love. David waited outside, offering silent support when Reed emerged, emotionally drained. "I don't know if I can help them," Reed confessed as they walked home. David nodded. "Whatever you choose, I'm with you." That night, lying in bed, Reed pondered the complexities of human frailty, wondering if redemption was possible for those who had caused such deep wounds. The meeting lingered in Reed's mind like a persistent shadow, casting doubt on his hard-won peace. He threw himself into work, advocating fiercely for LGBTQ+ foster kids facing similar rejections. One case hit close to home. A 13-year-old boy named Tyler, whose parents had disowned him after he came out. "They said I'm going to hell," Tyler confided during a session, his eyes downcast. Reed's heart ached with familiarity, fueling his resolve to fight systemic biases in the child welfare system. At home, David sensed the turmoil. "Talk to me," he urged one evening over dinner, pasta steaming on their plates. Reed sighed, admitting the letter had reopened old scars. "Part of me wants to let them suffer like I did, but another part wonders if that's making me as cruel as they were." David reached across the table, his touch grounding. "You're not cruel, Reed. You're human." The dilemma escalated when Martha called again, her voice desperate. Robert needed a transplant, and their insurance wouldn't cover the full cost. "We're facing bankruptcy," she pleaded. Reed hung up, conflicted. He researched kidney donation, learning he could be tested as a match since they weren't blood-related but had raised him. The idea terrified him, giving part of himself to those who had discarded him. Society's expectations weighed heavily. Friends offered mixed advice. Some urged forgiveness as a path to healing, others championed self-preservation. "Blood is thicker than water, but they aren't even blood," one colleague quipped. Online forums buzzed with similar stories, sparking debates on family obligation versus personal boundaries. Reed read posts from others abandoned for their sexuality, their tales of reconciliation or estrangement mirroring his inner battle. David's perspective added nuance. Coming from a loving family, he encouraged empathy. "People can change, Reed. Look at how far society's come: marriage equality, pride parades. Maybe they've evolved too." But Reed countered with statistics. Hate crimes against LGBTQ+ individuals still rose in conservative areas, and religious exemptions allowed discrimination in adoptions. "Change is slow, and it cost me my childhood," he argued. A turning point came during a work conference in New York. Reed presented on the impacts of family rejection on queer youth, citing studies showing higher rates of homelessness and mental health issues. Attendees nodded knowingly, sharing their own experiences. One panelist, a reformed pastor, spoke of unlearning prejudice. "I disowned my son once," he admitted. "It took losing him to realize love should be unconditional." The words struck Reed like a bolt, planting a seed of possibility. Back in Chicago, Reed confided in David about the conference. "What if I test for compatibility? It doesn't mean I have to donate." David supported him, accompanying him to the clinic. The process was invasive, stirring memories of vulnerability. Results came weeks later. Reed was a match. The news hit like a freight train, forcing a decision that could redefine his life. Martha's gratitude was overwhelming when he told her. "God bless you, Reed," she said through sobs. But Reed set boundaries. "This isn't forgiveness yet. It's a start." Robert, from his hospital bed via video call, looked gaunt but remorseful. "We failed you, son. I'm so sorry." Hearing "son" again twisted Reed's gut, a term of endearment long denied. As surgery loomed, tensions rose. David's family invited them for Thanksgiving, a warm contrast to Reed's past holidays in group homes. Around the table, laughter flowed, but Reed felt out of place, haunted by what-ifs. "What if my parents had accepted me?" he whispered to David later. "You wouldn't be the amazing man you are," David replied, pulling him close. The operation day arrived, nerves frayed. In the waiting room, Martha approached hesitantly. "Thank you," she murmured. Reed nodded, words failing him. Hours later, success. The transplant took. Relief washed over everyone. But for Reed, it was bittersweet. Recovery meant interactions with the Thompsons, unearthing buried emotions. Post-surgery, Reed visited Robert, the beeps of machines underscoring their awkward reunion. "Why did you do it?" Robert asked weakly. Reed paused, then answered honestly. "Because holding on to hate was killing me more than helping you ever could." The admission sparked a tentative dialogue, revealing the Thompsons' own regrets. Lost friends, questioned faith. Yet not all was smooth. Neighbors in the Thompsons' conservative suburb whispered about the gay donor, fueling online backlash when the story leaked. Reed faced trolls accusing him of seeking attention, while supporters praised his compassion. The controversy highlighted societal rifts. Was his act heroic or foolish? Debates raged on social media, mirroring Reed's internal conflict. David stood by him through the storm, their relationship deepening amid the chaos. "You're my hero," David said one night, as they watched the city lights from their balcony. Reed smiled, feeling a flicker of peace. But doubts lingered. Was this true reconciliation or just obligation? Recovery brought unexpected intimacy. Reed helped with Robert's rehab, driving to their house in the suburbs, a place he once called home but now felt foreign. Martha fussed over him like a mother hen, her apologies woven into every conversation. "We joined a support group for parents of LGBTQ+ kids," she shared one afternoon, handing him tea. Reed raised an eyebrow, skeptical but curious. The group had opened their eyes, she explained, challenging long-held beliefs. Robert, still weak but engaged, nodded. "We were wrong, Reed. Fear made us monsters." Hearing their admissions chipped at Reed's walls, but trust was fragile. He challenged them. "What about the church that taught you to hate people like me?" They admitted leaving it, seeking a more inclusive congregation. Change seemed genuine, but Reed wondered if it was convenience-driven. Back in the city, David noticed the toll. "You're exhausted," he observed, massaging Reed's shoulders after a long day. Reed leaned into him, confessing his mixed feelings. "Part of me wants to believe them, but the hurt runs deep." Their conversations delved into the nuances of forgiveness, how it didn't erase pain but could coexist with it. David's unwavering support reminded Reed of the love he'd built, free from conditions. Societal pressures amplified the drama. A local news outlet picked up the story, framing it as a tale of redemption. "Abandoned son saves father's life," the headline blared, sparking interviews. Reed agreed reluctantly, hoping to highlight issues facing queer foster kids. But the spotlight brought backlash. Conservative commentators decried it as forced acceptance, while progressives questioned if the Thompsons deserved mercy. Online debates erupted. "Forgiveness glorifies abusers," one viral thread argued. Others countered, "People can grow," denying that stifles progress. Reed scrolled through comments, feeling exposed. One particularly vicious message accused him of betraying the LGBTQ+ community by aiding his homophobic parents. It stung, forcing him to confront if his choice was selfish or selfless. David helped him navigate the noise. You did it for you, not them, he reminded. Their relationship, tested by the stress, emerged stronger. They attended Pride events together, Reed speaking on panels about family reconciliation. It's not always possible, and that's okay, he told audiences, his voice firm. The experience shaped his work, leading to a promotion overseeing LGBTQ+ programs. Yet cracks appeared. During a visit, Robert slipped into old habits, making an offhand remark about traditional marriage. Reed froze, anger flaring. See? You haven't changed, he snapped, storming out. Martha chased after him, pleading. He's trying, Reed. Give him time. But time was what they'd stolen from him, years of belonging. The incident reignited doubts. Reed confided in Dr. Ellis, exploring the psychology of trauma bonds. Reconnecting can re-traumatize, she warned. David, ever the optimist, suggested family therapy. Reluctantly, they all agreed. Sessions were intense, tears flowing as buried truths surfaced. Robert admitted his fear stemmed from his own repressed feelings, a revelation that humanized him but complicated everything. As winter set in, Reed and David planned a getaway to recharge. In a cozy cabin upstate, they reflected on their journey. I love you for your heart, Reed, even when it's conflicted, David said by the fire. Reed kissed him, grateful for a partner who saw his flaws as strengths. The trip clarified his boundaries. Help, but on his terms. Returning, Reed faced a new twist. Martha revealed they were selling the house to pay debts, asking if he'd co-sign a loan. We wouldn't ask if we had options, she said. Reed balked. It felt like exploitation. You've taken enough, he replied, hanging up. The request ignited fury, questioning their motives. Was remorse real or a facade for need? David urged caution. Don't decide in anger. But Reed felt manipulated, the power dynamic shifting uncomfortably. He sought advice from mentors in the LGBTQ+ community, hearing stories of similar dilemmas. Protect your peace, one elder advised. The consensus. Forgiveness didn't mean financial entanglement. The conflict peaked at a family dinner David hosted, aiming for neutrality. Tensions simmered as topics veered into politics. Gay rights bills, religious freedoms. Robert defended personal beliefs, clashing with Reed's advocacy. Beliefs that hurt people aren't harmless, Reed countered. The argument escalated, exposing irreconcilable differences. Martha mediated, but the damage was done. Reed left early, David following. Maybe some bridges are meant to burn, Reed muttered in the car. David sighed. Or maybe they need rebuilding slowly. The night left Reed pondering the limits of change, wondering if blood, or foster ties, truly bound. Spring brought renewal, but for Reed it meant reevaluation. He declined the loan request, explaining firmly, I gave you my kidney. That's my limit. Martha's disappointment was palpable, but Robert surprised him by agreeing. You've done more than we deserve, he conceded in a letter. The admission marked progress, albeit slow. Work consumed Reed, launching a campaign against discriminatory foster policies. His story inspired donors, funding scholarships for queer youth. David thrived too, landing a major design contract. Their life together flourished, weekend brunches, movie nights, dreams of marriage. Will you? David asked one evening, ring in hand. Reed's yes was tearful, a milestone of chosen family. News of the engagement reached the Thompsons. Martha called, congratulating hesitantly. We're happy for you. Reed invited them to the wedding, a test of their growth. Only if you can celebrate us fully, he stipulated. They accepted, promising support. Preparations buzzed with excitement, but anxiety lurked. Would old prejudices resurface? The wedding was intimate, in a Chicago garden under blooming cherry trees. Friends and David's family filled the seats, a tapestry of acceptance. As the Thompsons arrived, Reed's heart raced. Martha hugged him awkwardly, Robert shaking his hand. Proud of you, son, Robert whispered. The ceremony was emotional, vows echoing commitments forged in adversity. Reception toasts highlighted resilience. David's sister joked about their meet-cute, lightening the mood. But a guest's question to Robert, "How do you feel about gay marriage now?" sparked tension. Robert paused, then said, "Love is love. I was wrong before." Applause followed, but Reed remained wary, knowing words were easier than actions. Post-wedding, the Thompsons visited more, building tentative bonds. They attended pride parades, donning ally pins. Reed saw glimpses of change, Martha volunteering at LGBTQ+ centers, Robert reading books on acceptance. Yet, slip-ups occurred like misgendering a trans friend, requiring patient corrections. Societal backlash persisted. A conservative blog targeted Reed's story, calling his forgiveness capitulation to family pressure. Supporters rallied, but the scrutiny exhausted him. "Why can't people let us heal in peace?" he vented to David. Their honeymoon in Hawaii provided respite, beaches soothing frayed nerves. Returning, a crisis hit. Robert's health declined again, rejection symptoms appearing. Doctors urged vigilance, but costs mounted. Martha pleaded for help once more. "Just advice on resources," she clarified. Reed provided it, drawing from his expertise, but drew lines against personal funds. The situation stirred community debate. At a panel, Reed discussed, "Forgiveness is personal, not prescriptive." Audience questions probed, "Does helping abusers enable them?" Reed replied thoughtfully, "It's about balance, empathy without erasure of harm." The discourse highlighted gray areas in reconciliation. David's role evolved, becoming a mediator. "I see their efforts," he noted. Reed appreciated his insight, their partnership a model of healthy love. They adopted a dog, symbolizing their growing family, discussions of kids on the horizon. As years ticked by, now 15 since abandonment, Reed reflected on his journey. The Thompsons integrated somewhat, holidays shared cautiously. But full trust eluded him, a scar that faded but never vanished. He wrote a memoir, anonymized, sparking national conversations on family, faith, and forgiveness in the LGBTQ+ context. Critics accused him of romanticizing redemption, while fans lauded vulnerability. The book tour brought encounters with others in similar plights, validating his choices. "You gave me hope," one reader shared. Reed smiled, knowing hope was double-edged, possible yet precarious. In quiet moments, Reed and David dreamed of the future. "We've built something beautiful," David said, cuddling on the couch. Reed agreed but pondered the cost. Had helping his parents healed or hindered? The question lingered, a testament to life's complexities. Time wove its intricate patterns, and Reed's life settled into a rhythm of advocacy and love. His nonprofit expanded, influencing policy changes that protected queer foster kids nationwide. David opened his own design studio, their home a hub of creativity and warmth. The Thompsons remained peripheral, visits sporadic, conversations careful. But progress was evident in small acts, like birthday cards affirming his marriage. One summer, a family reunion David's parents hosted included the Thompsons, a bold step. Laughter mingled with awkward silences, but no blow-ups occurred. Robert pulled Reed aside. "Thank you for giving us a chance." Reed nodded. "It's for me, too." The exchange felt like closure, though incomplete. Yet new conflicts arose. A bill in Congress threatened LGBTQ+ rights, backed by groups echoing the Thompsons' old church. Robert spoke against it publicly, a surprising ally. "My son's story changed me," he told reporters. The statement went viral, drawing praise and ire. Reed felt conflicted, proud, yet resentful that his pain catalyzed their growth. Media frenzy ensued, interviews probing family dynamics. "Do you regret the abandonment?" a journalist asked Martha. "Every day," she replied. Reed, in his segment, emphasized systemic issues. One family's redemption doesn't fix a broken system. The exposure amplified his voice, but invaded privacy. David worried about burnout. "We need boundaries," he insisted. They therapy-tuned their approach, prioritizing mental health. Reed explored hobbies, painting with David, volunteering at animal shelters, rediscovering joy beyond trauma. A pivotal moment came when Tyler, the boy Reed mentored years ago, graduated college. "You saved me," Tyler said at the ceremony. Reed hugged him, tears welling. "You saved yourself." The success reaffirmed his path, countering doubts about his own choices. As anniversaries marked milestones, 20 years since abandonment, Reed contemplated legacy. His memoir became a bestseller, adapted into a podcast debating ethical dilemmas in forgiveness. Listeners shared stories, fostering a community of shared healing. The Thompsons' health stabilized, their gratitude evolving into genuine affection. Martha knitted scarves for Reed and David. Robert shared old photos from Reed's childhood. Nostalgia softened edges, but Reed guarded his heart, knowing vulnerability's risks. In a quiet evening reflection, Reed and David discussed adoption. "We could give a kid what I never had," Reed mused. David smiled. Unconditional love. The dream felt attainable, built on their resilient bond. Yet, societal undercurrents persisted. Hate crimes spiked, reminding Reed of fragility. He advocated louder, testifying in hearings. "Rejection kills dreams," he stated. His parents attended one, their presence a silent endorsement. The journey culminated in a family therapy breakthrough. Robert admitted, "I was afraid of what I didn't understand." Reed responded, "Understanding starts with listening." Tears flowed, forging fragile understanding. Life moved forward, highs and lows intertwining. Reed's story inspired change, but personal peace remained elusive. He wondered if full forgiveness was myth or milestone. In the end, Reed stood stronger, his choices a tapestry of pain and grace. But one question haunted. Was extending help to those who once rejected him an act of true strength, or a compromise of self-worth? Is forgiveness obligatory when it revives old wounds, true or false?